Hello Internet, and welcome to another Nick Reacts video. Okay, that joke wasn't very funny the first time, and to be fair, the first one wasn't a reaction video in the sense of watching something else and filming my reactions. I just wanted to jump on the whole rip into the Fine Bros for trying to trademark a word bandwagon, so I'll find something else to call those. This video is scripted, so it's not even close to a reaction video. Jesus, this went off topic quickly. Take two? Hello Internet, and welcome to another Let's Talk About video, where today I'm going to be talking about where's the fair use, hashtag WTFU, or rather, I'll be telling you where you can get more info. So first of all, I'm not going to delve too deep into my thoughts about this whole fair use business that's causing a bit of an uproar on the internet, for reasons I'll outline later. But to get those not in the know up to speed, here's what's been going on. Recently, a number of high-profile YouTube channels have been hit with some pretty terrible copyright strikes, despite their videos being completely legal and within the terms of YouTube's community guidelines, i.e. they are allowed to use copyright material because the way they use it is protected by fair use. So the next question is, what is fair use? I'll quote this straight from YouTube's community guidelines. In the United States, fair use is determined by a judge who analyses how each of the 4 factors of fair use applies to a specific case. Factor number 1. The purpose and character of the use, including whether such use is of commercial nature or is for non-profit educational purposes. This basically means that you're less likely to be held accountable for copyright if the way you use the material is transformative. Simply put, it does something new and different with the material and simply doesn't copy it. A good example of this would be critique. Using clips from a film or video game whilst reviewing said film or game is protected under this factor. Factor number 2, the nature of the copyrighted work. This mainly covers things that are factual in nature. If you're using material taken from factual works rather than creative works, you are much more likely to be protected. Let's take an extreme example. Say you make a video that discusses the Big Bang and you talk about some of the theories behind it and explain the science that produces it. It's very unlikely that Stephen Hawking is going to sue you for copyright. Besides, he's probably too busy for that. Factor number 3, the amount and sustainability of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. If we go back to our critique example, what this factor explains is that if you use small bits of the original work, that's probably going to be okay. But if you just talk over the entire trailer for a film, then you're more likely to get hit with a copyright claim. As GradeAUnderA so nicely explained it in his video, if you watch a video that contains someone else's material, and that video provides you with no further need whatsoever to go back and watch the original video, then you are breaking copyright law. I'll talk more about this factor and GradeAUnderA later. And finally, factor number 4, the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Simply put, if your video significantly prevents the original owner from making a profit on their video, then your video is probably violating fair use. Let's say you try and make money from a video that simply puts together every episode of Red vs Blue. You put it all into one video, then you're actively taking away profit from Rooster Teeth, and therefore you are breaking factor number 4. So these are the 4 factors of fair use. If your video abides by these 4 factors, you should be protected by fair use. But that isn't what's been happening recently. More and more videos are being hit by copyright strikes, despite them being perfectly legal due to them adhering to the 4 factors of fair use. The effects of these strikes vary. The original copyright holder can choose to place ads on your video that they then earn the revenue from. They can prevent your video from being monetized at all, and in worst case scenarios they can take down videos and even entire channels. They can force them to be taken down, closed, no videos watched, and that is what's been happening. This has recently happened to channels such as TeamFourStar, I Hate Everything, and Channel Awesome, to name but a few. Thankfully, due to the high profile presence these channels command, most have been reinstated, but the same cannot be said for many smaller channels. So next up, have I been affected? Yes, I have. From the very start of my YouTube career, if you can call it a career, I have been faced with copyright claims, some legitimately and others not so much. Let me talk about 2 of my most recent ones. My latest video, entitled Sorry Connor, was flagged for containing copyrighted material by Warner Music Group due to using a small snippet of the song I'm So Lonely from Team America World Police. As a result of this, that video now contains ads, and WMG claims the revenue from them. I haven't filed a dispute against this one, as I think it's probably a legitimate claim. The clip isn't used in a transformative way, it provides the same effect in my video as it did in the original, and I'm using someone else's creative material as part of my own creative material, thus breaking factors 1 and 2 of fair use. If anyone with better knowledge of how fair use works wants to have a watch and inform me otherwise, please go ahead. I'm not an expert at fair use, I'm only going off my own interpretations here. The second example is the final video of my 2015 reflection series, entitled My Top 3 Movies of 2015. This video was flagged 5 times by Universal Pictures, Lionsgate, E1UGC, Exposer and Fox for the use of trailer clips from Jurassic World, Deadpool, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, Kingsman: The Secret Service and Dad's Army. Now this video I have filed a dispute for, as you can see here, as I'm reasonably certain the use of this material is governed by fair use. But again, if anyone with better knowledge than I can tell me otherwise, I'd be happy to listen. As the claim states, I use this material in a transformative way. I am critiquing the material. The video is a review of the films the material is from, and is clearly not being used to simply reuse the material for my own personal gain. What's most interesting about this claim is that every clip claimed for is from a film I actually talked about. There were many other clips, albeit much shorter, that I didn't even mention the films for, and was simply there as a background for here are some movies from 2015, tying into the overall theme of the video. I can understand it much more if these clips were hit rather than the films I actually critiqued, but not a single one of those was hit. The only reasoning I can think behind it was simply due to their length. In any case, each claimant now has 30 days to respond, which if I don't hear a response, I get all the rights back. We'll see what happens. So there's a lot of umming and ahhing about fair use and these unfair content claims running amok on YouTube at the moment. But today, I'm not here to try to point fingers or explain what I think the solution should be. Mainly, as I've pointed out a couple of times already, I am not qualified to do so. I don't know how this system works, how the behind the scenes of Content ID looks, and what YouTube's business practices and involvement in Content ID and fair use law actually is. Sure, I've learned quite a bit about it through watching other YouTube channels from creators who are much more articulate and informed on the subject than I am. And that is my purpose here today, to share these videos with other people and help highlight and raise awareness of the fair use problem. And if there's one thing that all of these videos have in common, it's that they encourage their audience to spread the word, to spread the videos, and make sure the YouTube community has a voice in this ever-growing conflict. Here's a couple of videos I found really useful, and I would highly recommend giving a watch. First up is TeamFourStar. As I stated, the guys behind Dragon Ball Z Abridged actually had their channel taken down for a day as a result of unfair Content ID claims. Their video explains what happened to them and how it transpired, giving you a bit of an insight into how a high-profile channel deals with this kind of situation. It's a good starting point if you want to know what's actually going on right now. Second up, I was advised to check out GradeAUnderA. Now, I've seen a couple of Grade A videos shared on Facebook before, and I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not really a fan. Having grown up in an area where the sort of behaviour and language that GradeAUnderA employs was the norm and very different from my own nature, it's not a style I find particularly enjoyable. If you watch just 30 seconds of one of his videos, you'll see exactly what I mean, and you'll decide there and then whether it is for you or it isn't for you. But each to their own. His 2 videos, Everything That's Wrong with YouTube, split into 2 parts, is basically him ranting about the problems being caused by fair use, before then going on to explain a personal vendetta between him and a reaction channel over their use of one of his videos. Whilst I don't particularly agree with his conclusions regarding YouTube's place in all this, he does do a reasonably good job of detailing the YouTube community guidelines, explaining how fair use is applied to a number of different scenarios. And it is interesting that he talks about it as someone who is having his material used in ways that isn't governed by fair use, as opposed to most others who are suffering from false copyright claims from the original copyright holders. He later goes on a big rant about how reaction videos aren't governed by fair use and are therefore breaking copyright, citing examples of people reacting to his videos. Whilst I actually agree with his points here, the whole debacle from there goes on a bit too much for my liking. Part 2 steers into other community guidelines and becomes even more about simply calling out specific channels for breaking various rules. And if you're just interested in the fair use argument, you can probably skip the second half, but if you do find them entertaining, then yeah, it's worth a watch. Now for number 3. And of course, I wasn't going to skip out on good old Jim Sterling. As some of you might know, Jim is my favourite video game journalist, and he is quite a big influence on some of the content that I create. I watch his videos every week and support his Patreon, so of course I was going to mention him. Jim covers fair use in 2 of his Jimquisition videos, the first being from quite a while before this whole issue blew up to the proportions we're seeing right now. The video entitled The YouTube Fair Use Protection Program is from November last year and was part of the unveiling of YouTube's Copyright Protection Program, a program put in place to help protect content providers from false copyright claims. Now, this sounds like something that should be solving the situation we're in right now, but it's not a blanket solution and only protects individuals rather than whole channels. But have a watch of that if you want to see YouTube doing something good in this area. The second, Where's the Fair Use, is amongst many other videos like this one that are simply trying to highlight the fair use program and show some examples of unfair copyright ID claims. Whilst I've known fair use has been a bit of a problem for quite a while, it was this video that clued me into the massive upset that we're currently experiencing. Hence the recommendation. Thank God for Jim. The final video I would recommend watching is YouTube is Not in the Wrong, But I Know Who Is, by Sky Williams. For those who don't know him, Sky Williams is a League of Legends player who's recently gotten back into content creation by uploading a new video every day. Really admirable work. Whilst the majority are about League, this one is a really good place to actually think about a fair argument in this problem. Sky does his best to try to defend YouTube to a point, explaining the reasoning behind YouTube's actions, and tries to explain the business side of what's going on. That's not to say he's arguing against all of this fair use controversy. The aim of his video is to steer people's anger away from YouTube and towards the greedy copyright holders who are slapping channels with these content ID hits in the first place. Sky takes a much steadier and calmer approach to this argument, and though he continuously doubts himself, he actually brings a lot of good points to the table. If you go away and watch just one of the videos I've suggested, I'd probably make it this one. His style isn't for everyone. Quite often I'll not get to the end of a Sky video because his content isn't always appealing to me. But this one is definitely a well thought through and fair approach to the subject on fair use and YouTube's place in all of this. The whole situation sucks, and really the only people benefiting from it are the big corporations making these false claims in the first place and receiving no punishment for actively taking away income from hardworking content creators. Make sure you get in the know about this problem. Make sure you share what you know with others. This issue isn't going to go away overnight. Laws need to be brought up to date to deal with this legal grey area. The community has to speak up and be heard. Every one of us has the responsibility to do something, even if it's something as simple as sharing a video. Even if you don't share mine, share one of the ones I've shared with you. They're far more informative and probably far more entertaining than this one anyway. I'm simply here to help pass them along. Together, we can make YouTube great again. Thanks very much for watching. Check out the other videos I've mentioned. There are links on your screen now and in the description below. Share them, folks. Subscribe if you like what you've seen, and I will see you next time.